Hey everybody, and welcome to TekFlow for Construction, brought to you by Zentek Consultants. TekFlow for Construction is a recurring videocast where we talk about the best tech practices and procedures that we've been implementing for Zentek clients, ones that we think everybody should be looking to include in their own workflows.
I'm Jim Coppinger, a principal here at Zentek Consultants, and today I want to talk about folder level permissions. And that's a really, really important concept when we're talking about the construction environment, particularly as we've been talking about in a lot of these VCasts we've been doing about working in the cloud and moving your data out into the cloud, whether it's through an ERP system or a cloud-based hosting service. How do we make sure that things are going exactly the way that we want them to go? Right? That's always the big issue. So what do we mean by folder level permissions? Look, the key to all of this is it comes down to making sure that, when you add contractors and subs and owners and architects and engineers, people outside of your company or potentially even inside your company to your project, right? You're going to give them permission to access your job, but just because they're able to access the job in general doesn't mean they should have access to every single item that's out there. In other words, right, we want to make sure that, if I've got, bids from the electrician and the plumber and the site guy, I don't want them looking at each other's bids and prices and costs, right? I want to be able to isolate who can see what. And probably the easiest way to do this is at the folder level. And I think that's a key component of this, right? If you've got those bids and you want to make sure that those bids aren't accessible to anybody outside your company, you do want to put them in the cloud so that your staff can access them from anywhere, anytime, any place. But by just putting them all in a single folder and then setting the folder level permission, it makes it a lot simpler, I think, than trying to get down at the file level permission about individual files, who can see what. If I create a bids subfolder, right? Because we're all used to the standard, folders and subfolder structure that we've been working with in, the computer environment for the last 30 plus years. And it's very, very easy for people to see it and understand it. But what's great is that when you're dealing with the bigger, construction cloud-based control systems and ERPs, you have the ability to go in and in some instances even completely hide folders from people who you don't want to see it, or at the very least mark things down to a read-only access, or just don't give them access to a specific area. It varies a little bit, depending on which of the systems you work with. And as I've kind of been doing in these VCasts, I'm going to kind of stay with my big three, which are Bluebeam Studio, Procore, and the Autodesk Construction Cloud. Right, we're going to kind of focus on those and see how you can set folder level permissions on your own project. So to start with, I'm going to go over and I'm going to go into Bluebeam Review. Right, and all I've done here in Bluebeam is I'm just going in through Bluebeam Studio. Right, and I'm just going to go in and I'm going to open up one of my projects. And we can just go in, once we've got a project open, we can just go to the top left here and go to these little slide bars, look like sound mixers. Right? And it gives us the ability to set, and we've talked about this in other video casts about, user access and permissions and how to give people permissions and what they can do on your job in general. But what I really want to focus on today is this last tab over here, which is the folder permission tab. And you can see that just like anything else, what we do is we work with user groups and we can build and add user groups. So if I want to go in and, add a predefined user group for all the users here at Zentek, so now I've got a group for general attendees, a group for just my Zentek users. But what's important about this tab is that it's going to let you control the folder level structure. So you see here, it starts off at the top with the project group, meaning the top level folder. But what's nice about this is you can kind of see over here what it means is the Zentek project, the word Zentek project over here on the left. The subfolders are here, the bid set, design files, estimate that I have over here on the left side. But when I hit this little expansion arrow here, kind of on the left, you see it shows me all the subfolders. And I can actually go in and kind of take the permissions and the controls from the top level folders, right? And expand them down and give different permissions to different groups. See, I can set one set of permissions on each folder for the Zentek users, a completely different set for the attendees. All right, so if I go to the Zentek users and expand this out, you can see that at the top level, generally speaking, right now by default, my Zentek users have read and write access to all the folders. Right? Well, I can go in and say, you know what, they're Zentek employees. I want them to be able to read, write, and even delete files. That's fine. Now, right now, you see all of the other subfolders are saying inherit from parent. Okay, see right here? That means that they're getting the same permission from the top level one. It's just kind of copying down. But I can go in and I can start to set individual controls on each level of this. So if I'm going to go, like I said, to my bid set, and I really want to make sure that, I don't want anybody to see that other than a couple of specific people who I'm going to add in over here. I can hide that. I can hide the bid sets, okay, completely. Right? So I have no worry about anybody seeing what the bid set is. Okay. I can go to the design file and say, look, those are really important and I don't want anybody deleting or modifying those. I'm going to set those for read only so that all the files in the design files are there. All right. So you can see that at each level, I can set completely different setups. You can go back to the general attendees and I can get all kinds of setups and just go and say, hey, I don't want them to see the bid set. I don't want them to see the design files. I can set certain folders to be read and write and delete and some for just read only, whatever I need at any level. So it's a very simple way to be able to set and control all the different folders on every one of your projects. Right? That's how we deal with that with Bluebeam Studio. And we have similar features. I'm going to go jump over here to Procore, and we can kind of do the same thing in Procore. And we're going to talk, I'm just going to go in here. I'm going to go ahead and pick a project here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the documents level structure here again, where we're keeping all our documents and files. Basically a folder structure here inside of Procore. And I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to click on that to bring that up. Right? And what's nice about this is I get the same kind of setup. So if I wanted to go in and say, okay, you know what? Look, and I can do this I can actually do all these things at the file level. I prefer it at the folder level. I think it's a better control system. But if I wanted to go in here and say, hey, on this test folder, I can check that box. You see over here, I can turn on my information icon. Right? And that'll give me the ability here, this little letter I. If I click on that, it expands out on the side and go to my permissions for that folder. And you see right now it's a public folder. It's accessible to everybody who is on the job. It's an open folder at the moment. That's its default. But what I can do here is I can go in, I can make this a private folder just by clicking make it private. Right? And that takes a minute while it loads up. And once it loads up, right, you see that now I have the ability, it's showing me all the people who already have permissions on here. And because it's a private folder, anybody who's got admin rights, you see these all say admin. Anybody who has admin rights on the job, by default, have rights to the private folders. But I can go in here and I can go to manage permissions. And here again, I'm at the folder level for this test folder. And I can go down and I can add groups, other groups of people that I've already built, different permissions groups, different distribution groups. And I can even go in and start adding individuals. So if I want to go in and say, hey, you know what, John Doe needs to have access, I can just click his name. And now you see over here, John Doe now has access to this folder. Okay, so I can add and remove people very, very easily by entire groups or however I need to inside of Procore. Same concept, restricting the permissions of who has what rights to access and work with my job, right? And then here in Procore, it's a little different that if you do want to get into actively, you're providing the permissions to people to be able to access this folder, you would actually go in under the directory and look at that individual and what level of rights and controls they have there. Same thing, we get into the Autodesk Construction Cloud. Same concept. We can go in and open up any project that we need. And within there, we can go in and we can start to take a look at the files, right? So I'm going to go over to the file structure, right, which is where we're keeping all of our general folder structure. And you see here, I can go to the drawings folder, which is a subset of my project files. And if I use the ellipses, these three dots right here, you see I can go in and I can go to the permissions settings option. And in here, I can go in and I can start to add individuals or remove individuals, right? I can go in and set what their permissions are. So if I want to go in and add someone else, I can set them to have read-only or view-only access, meaning they can view the files online, but they can't even download them. They can view and download. They can create new files and markups. They can, create and download, edit, or give them full administrative access. And I can use anybody's, email address up in here or whatever, names or roles. If I already pre-built kind of, members with different roles, architect, engineer, I can do it at that level. So I can set folder level permissions there as well inside the Autodesk build structure, right? Which is a really, really nice way to be able to, go in and ensure that what we're doing is guaranteeing very, very quickly, very, very easily that only the people who should have access to even view a file or a folder have that permission, right? And that the people who shouldn't be playing with those folders don't. Right? And that's a real big starting point for us whenever we work with our clients here at ZenTek. We really try to get the standard folder structure built out for you and work with you on standard folder level permission so that it's just kind of repeatable from project to project to project. You have a set folder structure with certain hidden folders for certain groups so that you never have to worry about it. You just put your files in the correct folder and everything should work from there, right? So that's the kind of stuff we like to talk to you about here on TekFlow for construction. I'll see you guys in the next episode.